The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, my name is Nicole Forty. I'm running for a 2-year term for the Litchfield Budget Committee. I moved here in January with my husband and my 2 dogs, and I'm really excited to participate in the government in our town. I really appreciate the opportunity for this direct involvement. In my short time in Litchfield, I've gone to multiple committee meetings, the town and the school deliberative session, and really appreciated the opportunities to get involved and the transparency in our town about what's going on, where our tax dollars are going. I really hope to bring a fresh perspective and new ideas to the town. I moved up here from Massachusetts, where I'm sure you know we do things a little differently, and I'm eager to learn about what has worked and what hasn't worked in the town in the past, and also how we can develop and change our identity as needed in the future. I know a lot of people, we want to bring new families. You know, we've had a lot of construction, new housing, more people, more tax revenue, bigger town, greater town. So a little bit about myself. I'm a pretty detail-oriented person. I have worked in proofreading and editing for several years. You have to be very careful with every, little thing, add a comma here, comma there. And so I do think that will help me on the budget committee to be really detail-oriented with the numbers. Very specific about the line items, what's going on. I'm also a social worker, it's my full-time job, so I'm used to communicating with people, being really clear, taking different people's opinions into account, and I like to think I'm really approachable. I honestly, I really encourage everyone who has anything to say, any questions, anything for me. You can get me on Facebook, email, I'll put that up in the Facebook group if anybody wants. I'm really approachable, and I really want to know what you have to say and how I can help represent you in the committee. Ultimately, if you vote for me, I am representing you. You're my constituents. Sure, I have some of my own opinions, but I really want to be informed about what you think. As far as some of the articles that are going to be up to vote in March, I will say that I do support the fire station, Article 4. I do think that the revised budget that came in at the $3.75 million is respectable for where we're at. I greatly support our first responders. I come from a family of firefighters, 911 dispatchers, police officers, and I know that our town really deserves a fire station that fits the needs for our people. I think they did a great job of bringing down the budget, really looking at what do we need versus what do we want, and I know that the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen are now behind the new article, and I encourage you to vote for that if you feel that fits with your values and your views. Similarly, I do support the article adding another full-time police officer. Like I said, I have a lot of first responders in my family, and I do think that economically, fiscally, it does make sense for us to add a full-time person and then decrease on the amount of money that we're spending on overtime for our police officers. I had a chance to review the budget items, what was proposed for this year, and if you really look down to it, it just makes economic sense to put forth into a new position, an additional position that can cover whatever might happen when you have a small police department, people call out, etc. So if we really want to think about where can we save money while still having the great amount and quality of services that we're used to, that's a real specific place where I think we can do that. So I encourage people, again, if it fits your conscience, vote in support of that article. I also am in support of the full-day kindergarten. I myself went to full-day kindergarten. It was helped, really prepare me for the rest of my education. And at the school deliberative session, I think there was a really informative and detailed PowerPoint presentation that really explained the benefits for our children. And on the other hand, I will say that when I was looking for to purchase a home in New Hampshire, that the quality of the school system is definitely something that people look at, and I think full-day kindergarten will draw more people. Offering that as an option shows that we want to invest in our children. And it really comes down to, who do we want to be as a town? What are our values? Do we want to attract more people and say Litchfield is a great place to live, that we care about our families and our community and especially our children? Similarly, I do support the article establishing the Heritage Commission. I believe that there is need for transparency in those decisions, and as the Heritage Committee was laid out in the article, all of their meetings would be broadcast on YouTube as far as the Litchfield TV. And so everyone would have the opportunity to see what they're doing, what are the historical buildings and places in our town, how can we work to preserve them, and what does that mean for us to have access and to really be able to pass on that information to future generations and really hold on to our identity as a town. We're an older town, and I think we deserve and need to respect that and look back at where we've been and then where we're going. So, just got my notes. I will say I'm not used to this sort of thing. Selling myself is a little difficult, but I hope that you can see how genuine I care about this town, and I really want to participate and be there and use my time and my expertise. I really am for economic responsibility, but also taking advantage of what's available for us and what's really going to improve our town. And I really just encourage everyone, no matter how you feel, who you're voting for, how you feel on the articles, to get out and vote on March 13th. We have this great opportunity in our system to put forth our opinions and our views and be heard. And the only way you won't be heard is if you don't go out and vote. So please vote, and I would really appreciate if you would vote for me, Nicole Forty, for Budget Committee 2-year term. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brian Hodgkins, and I'm running for Budget Committee. My family has lived in Litchfield for over 20 years. Recently, my wife and I had the opportunity to build a house in Litchfield. I'm a fiscal conservative, and I'm concerned with the taxes in Litchfield. I decided to get involved after reading a proposal for a new fire station in town. There was a lot of back and forth between the sides that want it and the sides who don't. In a perfect world where money is no concern, people would love to have a fire station on every block, for the schools to have an unlimited budget, and for every citizen to live happily ever after. In the real world, people struggle to put food on their table, gas in their car, and to pay their mortgage. These citizens don't say no to projects out of spite. They say no because they can't afford the taxes. I don't want to be taxed out of this town, and neither do you. My promise is to keep the budget as low as possible while still taking into consideration the needs of the town. Thanks for your consideration.
Hello, my name is Tara Hirschberger, and I'm running for the 2-year school board position here in Litchfield. There are a number of reasons that I'd like to serve on the Litchfield School Board. First, I believe in the public school system and want to do what I can to encourage continued learning at all levels. Excellence and collaboration between the school district, administrators, teachers, parents, and students. I have a vested interest in the school system since I have 2 children who are attending school in town. I've lived in town for 22 years. Volunteering is a part of my life and a part of who I am. I've been active in the school system since the beginning, which for my kids was 1st grade. I was room parent for one of my kids every year, have volunteered at GMS and with the PTO, and chaired the 4th grade yearbook committee this past year. I would really like the opportunity to do more for our town. In my professional work as donor relations manager, I build relationships and trust. I work for Families in Transition / New Horizons, a nonprofit, and by definition, a very frugal organization. We are experts in making a big community impact with limited dollars, lots of creative thinking, and help from many volunteers. I also held senior management positions at Elliott Health System, Panos Marketing, and WMUR-TV, so I understand how businesses and larger organizations function. When I see a need or opportunity in town, I work to make it happen. I was the founding president of both the Litchfield Lions Club and the Litchfield Youth Flag Football organizations, both of whom continue today. I understand change is inevitable. How we manage that change is up to us. I want to be a voice of positive change. I've made it my mission to have an open mind and listen to all sides. To that end, I've started meeting with our principals, school board members, past and present, teachers, and other leaders in town. Here are some things I've learned so far and my take on them. The principals understand that safety and security is foundational. Teachers are equally concerned about safety. Without a safe environment, learning can't be effective. They are committed to staying diligent, training for emergency situations, and continuing to chip away as resources permit at recommendations provided from the Homeland Security audit and bringing them back into our schools again. They also understand that every time a school is violated and public reports focus on school violence, there are critically important social and emotional issues that need to be addressed. They are committed to providing these resources to our students. They look forward to the school resource officer coming back to full capacity in the schools. Litchfield recently ranked as the third safest town in New Hampshire, but we can't be lulled into a false sense of security. This is a primary reason why many of us moved here. We must support security as a foundational element of our schools. Let's talk about priorities. I asked the principals about their priorities. Full-time kindergarten is definitely a priority. There was a warrant article to bring full-time kindergarten to Litchfield. Kindergarten is not mandatory, but 90% of the state has adopted full-time kindergarten. So we're behind the curve. Children are getting the educational component from part-time kindergarten, but we would see higher development on the social and emotional scale, which pays dividends in future development and learning. I fully support full-time kindergarten and believe the time is now to bring it to Litchfield. Technology is a priority. Our principals are excited about technological advances and implementing the one-to-one initiative fully, which is the goal of matching each student with a connected device beginning at first grade. We're getting there, but it hasn't been fully implemented yet. 21st century learning, which is here now, should deeply integrate technology into teaching to make our students college and career ready. Sustained programming in the face of declining enrollment is a priority. How do we keep the great programming we have with declining enrollment that we're facing? Litchfield ranks in the upper third or higher among schools based on testing, despite an investment of $1,300, approximately less per student than averages. Some argue our scores should be higher. Some argue that testing shouldn't have the emphasis it does. Some who are sent outside our district to take classes, such as the required second language in high school, may argue we don't have enough varied programming. This topic deserves more time than I can give it here, but it's definitely a priority for the district. Managing change is a priority. I've been told one of the biggest challenges at GMS is managing change. What I've heard at the elementary level in particular is that there has been a lot of curriculum change in the last 3 years, and it's time to stabilize. At this level, teachers teach all subjects, So change across multiple subjects can be extraordinarily challenging. We have to understand that change at some level is a constant, but we also need to be sensitive about too much change at once, because that can defeat the purpose of the intended change. We are fortunate to have our qualified, passionate, and vested teaching staff. We are fortunate to have leaders with good longevity in their positions. However, there is a change about to happen with the superintendent, which can make some people uneasy. I've always found that communication, rather over-communication, is the best way to manage through change. My college degrees were focused around business and communication. I received my undergraduate degree from UNH and my MBA from Southern New Hampshire University. My background also includes a high school education from Interlakes in Meredith, New Hampshire, a similar sized school system. Maintaining quality teachers is a priority. Our teachers set the tone. I understand a little about developing curriculum and how challenging it can be, since I wrote a class for Southern New Hampshire University, then taught it for the first time. There is definitely a learning curve on the teaching side whenever new curriculum is introduced. Every day our teachers go above and beyond. I heard that Destination Imagination was just awarded a sizable and much needed grant thanks to efforts by a teacher who wrote the grant. A number of teachers are part of this community too, so they are entirely vested in Litchfield. We do not want to lose good teachers. Special education is a priority. Special education has progressed very far over the years. It's mandated by state and federal laws. But in some areas, there's room for interpretation. In Litchfield, about 30% of our population is considered identified with a specialized instructional plan under the Individuals with Disabilities Act, and or have a 504 plan, which provide learning accommodations. Our schools want to do what is right and best for the students by keeping kids in our own district whenever possible, for many reasons, including controlling costs. They're having a hard time administratively managing the number of kids in the program with the one current office staff member, which is why they are asking for a special services coordinator. Enrichment is important to parents. Parents most ask our LMS principal about unified arts, things like family and consumer science, called FACS, library, PE, and elective unified arts like band and chorus. There has been a shift in the philosophy of unified arts from more traditional tech ed, like SHOP, to more of a focus on STEAM offerings like computer literacy, coding, and programming. These are important skills that are needed for today and make our kids more well-rounded individuals. Establishing a grading policy is a priority of mine. I was pleased to hear that a committee has been established to look at grading practices, since we lack a grading policy at this time. A grading policy is important to ensure consistent grading practices across the district, transparency through to the parents, and to encourage student learning. A grading policy would be a step forward for the town of Litchfield, since some parents, including myself at times, have not entirely understood how grades were derived. From my understanding, the committee has a draft of competency-based report cards and they're working on a retake policy. I have offered to volunteer for this committee since this was a concern I had identified last spring. In closing, we have a wonderful town with active citizens and highly involved parents. I'd argue that parental involvement in this town is second to none. When I worked on the yearbook, there were a dozen people who volunteered on the very first ask. Every year I was class mom, volunteers always stepped up to the plate. I've even seen on numerous occasions where parents who don't have kids in the school system anymore are still giving their time and talents to our schools. Our PTOs are active, from what I've seen. The GMS PTO earned an award in August for the impressive volunteer hours donated by involved parents and guardians. Although volunteerism decline as kids get older and more independent, there is still a core group who volunteers and supports at the high school level. Our schools and our children are better because of the efforts of all concerned citizens. We have a great foundation. We have a community that cares about education. We have outstanding teachers who are vested in our kids, and for many who live here too, our community. We have a unique opportunity to start fresh with a new superintendent. That person will bring a new set of skills, expertise, and ideas to the table, which need to be heard. There are many issues about which I'm eager to learn, hear input and experiences from others. I'd welcome any questions that you have and can be reached via email at tarahirschberger4schoolboard@gmail.com or on Facebook by searching Tara Hirschberger for School Board. I would appreciate your vote on March 13th. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Cecile Bond-Voudois, and I am running for a 2-year term for the Litchfield School Board here in Litchfield, New Hampshire. I wanted to start off by just giving you a short bio of who I am so that you have some sense of the type of candidate that I would be. First of all, I've lived in Litchfield for 21 years. I grew up in Manchester, New Hampshire, went to parochial school a good portion of my life, and then Central High School. I then went to Revere College and got my bachelor's in psychology. Met my husband, and I've been married for 25 years, and we moved to Litchfield to purchase a home and raise our children. So we have twin children that are seniors in the high school and a freshman. I was a substitute teacher at GMS, LMS, as well as Campbell High School for about 6 years when I stayed home with my children. Shortly after my youngest started first grade, I decided to become a substitute teacher. And about 3 years ago, I returned to my career, and I am a certified START coordinator at an area agency in Concord. So to give you a sense of what that type of position is, essentially what I do is I work with people who have a dual diagnosis. They might have both developmental disabilities as well as some mental health issues. And in the state of New Hampshire, we sort of separate those two things out, and they're funded separately. So when we have people that have that combined dual diagnosis, it's really important to make sure that they don't fall through the cracks, and that the START program is there to assist them. I then went on to get my master's in Human Service Administration at Springfield College. I am currently chairing the Aaron Cutler Library of Trustees, and I also serve on a shared ministry team, which is sort of like a council of elders at my church, and I am the secretary of the board at the Manchester Pony League, which is protecting our nation's youth, where my children play. So to give you a snapshot of what interests me in being in the school board, I have done a write-up that I put into the Hudson Litchfield News, as well as on our Facebooks here in Litchfield. But for those people who may not have read any information yet on what issues interest me, I'm going to go over some of those this evening. But the 6 issues I sort of listed is the safety and security in our schools, literacy, making sure that all of our children read, write, and do math, the school budget, when do you cut and when do you increase, community services, which is now an important factor for our students to be doing volunteerism, and special needs, which a third of our population has been identified as having some sort of special need or require an IEP or a 504. And the digital age, which is something that I'm really passionate about, which is making sure that our children are safe on the electronics that they have a lot of access to. So I think it's important, given the most recent events that have occurred in our country, as a candidate, to not skirt the issue of what is happening today in and our students' environments. So we know that it is really vital and important to ensure that our students and our teachers and our administrators are in an environment that's free of any sort of violence, free of any sort of trauma. And yet we're not quite sure what to do beyond making sure that we have good school preparedness and emergency planning. It's a very complex issue. We know that our students are sometimes targeted now, and we're asking our students to develop reasonable coping skills to deal with unreasonable circumstances that could occur in their life. So as a candidate running for the school board, all I can say is that for me, I would keep this in the forefront of our board. I'm sure they are already, but it would be really a priority for me to make sure that this is kept in the forefront, that we're always growing and strengthening our preparedness and our emergency planning. But I would also try to bring the element of how do we understand this issue surrounding our students? How do we conceptually understand what these people are doing? And that's really important. Some people believe it's gun control. Some people believe it's better parenting. Some people believe it's a mental health issue. And I just think it's a combination of a lot of things. So that's something that I would be interested in dialoguing with school board members and making sure that administrators and all of us begin to explore what we could do to help with the root causes of what's going on. As I mentioned, the digital age is here, and our students they have a window to the world with one click or tapping into one link. So it's really important that they're accessing factual online information, that they understand and that parents understand and teachers understand that they're accessing inappropriate content sometimes, or that they may not be understanding that once something's posted, it's permanent, even if you delete it. So, unplugging and learning how to balance the digital age is really important to our students. And I think bringing that kind of learning into the classroom could really benefit our students. Community service, as I mentioned, is key. Whether you're a student that's going to graduate and go get a job, or whether you're a student that's going to graduate and go to college, whether you're applying for scholarships, whether you're applying to go to the Honor Society, regardless, volunteerism is a factor now in your applications. And so I think students understanding the importance of volunteering and what they bring to other people and how they improve their quality of life by being a volunteer and how they improve their own life. All of that needs to be sort of highlighted and integrated into their daily world. Now, school budgets. So our school budget, a budget to me, is something that's not just a collection of numbers. It expresses the values of what we're trying to do in our education. And it needs to be balanced with our citizens and what they're paying for taxes. So it's always trying to make sure that you're keenly aware of what your students need, but you're also keenly aware of what's happening in your community and what the citizens are facing tax dollar-wise. However, I think if you develop and design a budget based on program funding levels that are needed and then expecting end results, that really sometimes is a good combination to knowing what dollars you need for your education program here in Litchfield. I think reductions occur when there's waste and increases occur when there's a need, such as for example, with kindergarten. And I will be talking about that. But I think if you approach a budget with prudence, efficiency, and diligence, and you challenge each other as school board members to make sure that you're putting forth a budget that's honest and fair to the taxpayers as well as to the students, I think that building trust around that is key, because there sometimes can be a lot of distrust. So I would try to work toward really being able to explain line items so that people fully were aware and we were truly transparent to what we were trying to do for our students. Now, one of the topics that is on the school board table is our full-day kindergarten. And I think it's important for candidates to be forthcoming where they stand on that. And I feel unequivocally that full-day kindergarten is essential. To me, kindergarten is foundational. It allows our youngsters to gain footing into the classroom for the following year in first grade. For me, when I look at 5 years old, I see them as developmentally ready for a full-day program, but I also see them as having an immense learning capacity at that age, and they're like sponges. They just take it all in. So creating a rich environment where they can go in and learn on a social level, on a behavioral level, on an emotional level, a physical level, as well as an academic level, to me, that is the most prime time for them to be able to do that. We have that old adage, all I really need to know I learned in kindergarten, and I know we kind of laugh about adages, but it has some relevance to it. It's a pretty valid adage. We know economically that it benefits 3 to 1, that the League of Education Voters cites that for every $1 spent in early childhood education, you're saving $3 in the intervention down the road. So I think it decreases grade retention and the dropout rate, and I think it builds confidence in our students. So it also makes us a really much more viable community to move into when people are looking around. And I know we're looking at how we can prevent our numbers from decreasing. So I am really going to support the full-day kindergarten. I did attend the deliberation center session, and I really listened closely to what they were saying, and I support it. So in closing, I would like to say that I hope that you will consider voting for me. I really think we have 5 spectacular candidates. I just met Tara downstairs for the first time, who I'm running for the 2-year slot, and I think we all offer something that the school board could really benefit for. So I'd like to wish each candidate good luck, and I'd also like to wish myself good luck. So I hope you'll consider voting for Cecile Bond-Voudois. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Betty Vaughn, and I am running for a 3-year term for school board. And the reason I decided to run was because, mainly because of my son. He's 16 and he's going to be going to college soon. And we had discussions about my doing it, and I said, no, I can't. And he encouraged me to do it, and I feel like I should be a role model for getting out there and doing things and going for it. And so here I am, running for school board, 3-year term. And we have lived in Litchfield for the last 14 years, and Noah has gone through all the schools in Litchfield. He's a junior at Campbell High School right now. We're kind of a non-traditional family, as I'm a single mom. I work with people with mental illness in Lowell, and I think that I bring a little bit of a different vision to the school board and some new ideas. So I'm pragmatic, and I'm good at finding strengths in people and encouraging people. And we need to have more people involved in the process, and we need to have more communications in the town in general as far as the school. When we want to take on big projects or make changes in town and in the school, we need to have the community involved, and we need to hopefully come to consensus before we start the project. And so, well, also I wanted to talk about what I see as my vision for students, parents, teachers, and paraprofessionals. And I wanted to say that as far as the students of the schools, I would like to focus on continuing to engage more students as they go through the middle school and high school. And I wondered how we can connect STEAM to our current curriculum. We need to continue to improve our special education program and to make sure all students are learning to their capability and being supported well. It would be great to continue to brainstorm how we can make the transition to middle school and high school smoother and less stressful for students. And for parents, parents know their kids better than anyone. They need good communications with teacher, administration, and also the superintendent. They need to know that their kids' needs are being met. We need to have communications in all directions with the school board, with the superintendent, and the superintendent and school board need to be responsive to parents. I believe the teachers are a part of the village that grow our children, and they need to be supported, and they also need to be challenged so they can grow professionally. Paraprofessionals work directly with special ed students, and I would like to see them get more training so that they are able to do their job better. I would like to see us in general connect more with the town and the selectmen, and I would like to have a more collaborative connection to the budget committee. The school board seemed to have no control over the governor implementing full-day kindergarten in New Hampshire, but in general there should have been more communication with the town when it became clear that that was going to be something that could be implemented in Litchfield. And so I felt like there should have been meetings and people should have been asked for their input, and that didn't happen. So I would like to say that I am looking for your vote on March 13th, and I'd love to hear from you about questions you might have, and thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Rob Myers, and I'm asking for your support for a 3-year term on the Litchfield School Board. I've been a resident of Litchfield for over 20 years and a New Hampshire resident all my life. My wife and I have 2 sons that attended Litchfield schools from elementary through high school. I'm a middle school social studies teacher with a degree in social science education and will soon finish a master's in educational leadership at SNHU. I've also coached baseball and soccer for school and recreational leagues. I've wanted to run for a seat on the school board for a number of years. Personally, I felt that being a parent and an advocate for my sons potentially could conflict with the decisions made by school board members. As my youngest will graduate this June, I now feel it is the perfect time. I'm a supporter of education, preparing our kids for college, career, and civic life. To get there, we must ensure that all students have a strong background and understanding in reading, writing, and math. The following are some educational issues of interest to Litchfield residents. School budgeting. Litchfield's a small community. We don't have the seasonal property taxes of the Lake region or the business and retail taxes of other nearby towns. We need to make financial decisions based on what is best for students while conforming to the reality of our town budget. I would suggest that there are emerging opportunities to embrace technology to expand our educational offerings in a fiscally responsible way. Competencies. This may not be as popular. I'm a supporter of competency-based education. CHS is one of the first schools in the state to develop and implement competencies. We have a solid base to work from in Litchfield. One major area I'd like to see addressed is competency recovery. We can take a driver's license test until we pass. We get a driver's license. The license does not list your failures, only that you successfully completed the test and are competent to drive. I would like to see us reevaluate and discuss how we help our struggling students attain competency and how this is then reported on the report cards and transcripts. Our sophomore and senior projects. Community service. This is a topic of discussion in districts all over New Hampshire. We need to get students out into the community to develop skills and gain experience they may be able to use to help guide their career choices. We need to refocus and redefine what this activity is for. And I hope we can determine and communicate the project expectation for students so they can be successful and have a meaningful experience that helps them in the future. Communication. As a district, I believe we need to increase our communication. Technology makes communication easy. Too often, we rely on simple letters or numbers of a grading program to inform us of our students' academic progress, good or bad. I believe we need to refocus on communication between home and school to build a more unified academic community and to communicate expectations and help ensure student success. I'd be happy to answer questions and discuss any questions you might have. For this purpose, I've created a Facebook page you can find by entering Myers, M-E-Y-E-R-S, Litchfield School Board 2018, and an email account at Myers, M-E-Y-E-R-S, LSB2018@gmail.com. I look forward to being part of this exciting time in the Litchfield School District as we welcome a new superintendent and hope you'll consider me, Rob Myers, when you vote on Tuesday, March 13th. Thank you very much.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.